So in this part, we need to generate the game or level, the data for every level. So this can't be randomized, I don't think. So we're going to have to hard code everything. I'm going to go to Visual Studio. I'm going to make a new document, new file. I'm going to choose, say new, and I'm going to choose XML file. I'm going to save it. I'm going to say save XML file as, and I'm going to put it in my project, right? So make sure you put this in the right place, right? Unity, and this is Waterbox 2 assets. I'm going to put it in the scripts. I'm going to call it levels. Well, let's say level data. Okay, so it should appear. It should appear in here. There it is. Okay, so level data. Okay, so an XML file, the nice thing about an XML file, it has a structure, so you can retrieve game data by just looking at the structure. So for instance, we're going to start with a structure called games. So that will be, oops, don't need that, right? That will be all our games, right? So that's the first part of this XML. It looks like HTML, right? Okay, the next part for all my games, I'm gonna have a game, right? Okay, so game, and here's the closing tag for this, right? So closing game. So that's the structure, and we're going to have many games. So we could have called this level 2, but anyway. So what's inside each game? So the first thing we need for each game is the size. How many, the grid, how wide is the size of the grid? The next part is, if you remember all those different blocks and their colors, I'm going to call those groups. And for each of the groups, I'm going to indicate the row and column for the block. So in this group, 0, 0, and 1, 0 are the blocks, and the rest, right? So we need to, we need a structure for the groups. And the last thing we need is where to put those circles, right? So those circles need a position. So the way I'm going to write this, I'm going to say this is on a row. Or if you recall, we have either on the right or on the left or on the bottom, right? So this is going to be for the row. I forgot. Let me see. Is it for the row 1, 3, and for the column is 0, 2? Yeah, these are the see 0, 2, and 1, 3. 1, 3, and 2, 2. These are the positions, right? So I have to check that, but anyway, I need the positions, and I need to know where they are on the row or on the column. I think this is on the right, and this is on the bottom. We'll see. Well, now that I recall, it's actually, this represents the row that it's in, and this represents the number. So this represents the row, and then the number that should be on that match. So this is the column and the number. Okay. So that's the first game. Here's the second game, right? So this would be 2 games now, and we'll fill in the rest of the games. And as you see, the last game has 9 sides. So this is the big one, right? So you really would, if you want to add a level of this on your own, you really would have to determine all of this data on your own. Okay, so now we have the data. And the next part is we need to read this into our game and then eventually convert it into some kind of objects, sprites and circles. Okay, so we need a script. We need some script to convert all that XML data in that file into something usable for us later in the game. So we're going to make a new script, and we're going to call it XML handler. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to need a region for the variables, right? So let's make a region. Okay, so what we're going to do is we need to use a C# built-in libraries that handles XML documents, right? So we need an XML document variable and a text asset variable. We also need the name of the file that we're going to retrieve. These are special classes, so we need a couple of imports. So let's import system XML and system input output. We're going to do a region called startup. Region. Thing. Assist. Okay, actually, we're going to put this inside this region, and don't need this. And I also need an awake. In the awake, we're going to set up the file name. So remember that where that file was, it was in the scripts, and it was called level data XML. Okay, so in startup, we're going to actually load all that data from the file. So we have a new function called load XML from assets, right? Okay, so here's the function. So all this really does is just loads everything into a variable from that file, right? And so these are the commands. And now if you would do a debug and take a look at this, you would see the structure. You would see the structure in the file. But you have the data, but now you have to do something with it. We have to convert it into our level components. So the next part is, once we have the data, we have to convert it. And we're going to have a new function called parse XML to games, right? So let's take a look at that. I'm going to make a new region for that. I'm going to call that parse region. So, and region parse. So this will take care of now. We have to get all that into some kind of structure that's usable later. So we're going to develop some classes here, some temporary classes just for this class. Okay, so here we go. We're going to use some enumerated type, and this is that R and C, H and V that we talked about. We saw earlier. This has to be row and column, horizontal, vertical. I don't think I need this. We're not doing lines here, so just one. So we're doing enumerated type, and we're going to, this is going to be quite extensive, so I'm going to make a new region for this. It's called inner classes. Inner classes, right? So I'm going to work from the top down, and the last class that I need, or the most important class, is my level. So if I ask you for a certain level, what do I need from the file? I need to convert, everything in that file is actually a string. So I'm going to have to convert the sides to an integer. I'm going to have to get all your groups into an array, and I'm going to have to get all your matches. And I have a constructor here. We have a constructor here. So once you parse all that, I'll be able to construct a level. So we need a couple of inner classes. These are called inner classes, right? We need a group and we need a match. Okay, so what does a group hold? So every group will hold the positions of an array of positions for that group. So if you refer to the file here, I'm talking about these 0010. So I need an array of positions. And of course I have a constructor here too. So once you give me those positions, we can initialize this. So again, I'm working from top down here, right? I started with the level, and now I'm building those components. Okay, so we used XML position here, which holds the row and column. So I'm going to make a class for that too. So XML position holds a row and column, and we have a constructor also, right? So as you can see, so right now it looks like the groups have everything they need, right? And now let's go to the match. Okay, I'll do the matches down here. So here. So what does a match have? Well, remember I told you before, it has a position. Well, first of all, I need to know exactly, is it a row or is it a column? Then the position, where, in what row, and then its value, right? So as you see, we have the position, its value, and also its type, right? So we did declare the type up here already, I think, see? So this is the match type R or C, and that refers to this R or C. Let me take a look at this. There's something in here. We don't need this text mesh here. Just those three. The last thing we'll add is we're going to be reading strings, and we need to convert them into a numerator type. So I have a conversion here. You give me a match, which is a string. And remember, I told you everything you read from here is a string. All these values will be strings. So we have to convert that into a numerator type, so we have a if and else. Okay, so we have everything we need here to start converting this data that we just read, right, and convert it into a game. Okay, so we need this function parse. Do we have it here, right? We have it. And let's start working on it. Okay, I think we need a variable to hold all those levels, right? So this is a list of all those levels. So in this list, we're going to hold all this data for every game. So it's going to be a list, and all this data is going to be in it. But we have to convert it, right, into something usable. So first thing is we have to instantiate our list. Then we need to iterate through each of those nodes. So you see what we're doing here is we're using the structure of the XML file, and we're going to retrieve from games one game at a time. And this is the beauty of XML. So this will give you the whole game in one variable. So this node now will hold everything. It will hold sides, it'll hold the groups, it'll hold the matches, right? So you don't have to try to parse those. You'll get them, but you do have to parse now these numbers, which are strings, into something usable. Now, the easiest thing is the sides, right? You can take, you see, so you take this node and you select the inner portion, you indicate what you're selecting, and then what we're doing, we're taking the text and we're converting it into an integer. So what we just did is we took this sides, this was a string, and we converted it into an integer, and we saved it in that variable. So sides is a one-shot deal. It's just one number, but you do have to convert it, and there is a XML code you have to know about. The next part is we need to make the groups, right? Because if you recall, every level has groups and matches. Of course, we just did the sides. We need the groups, which is an array. And we're also going to look at the sides. So we're going to convert those into an array. Okay, so we retrieved all the groups from the XML, and they're stored in here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to convert them into this XML group. And we're going to format this the way we want it. Okay, so we have these groups, but they're all together. So what we need to do is we split them up, So what we do is we take each group and we split them up, and so that means what we're doing we're working each of these numbers here one at a time, right? One at a time. So that's what this loop is doing, going through all the groups one at a time. Okay, so we take one group and we split on the comma. So what we're doing is we're splitting now this into two parts, two strings. So this will be two strings split on the comma. So this is called parsing, and we have to parse these into something usable. Okay, we're going to parse this into positions. Remember, each group has an array of positions. So what we're going to do is we're going to convert these values 0, 0 into positions. And if you remember, a position, where do I have that? Probably up here somewhere. Let me see, position. Yeah, has a row and column. So each of those numbers represents a row and column for that block. Okay, I think, is it this curly update? It looks, I think I'm missing a curly brace right here. Maybe one more. Okay, that looks like, okay. So now we have the position. There's only two positions, but I'm going to do a loop anyway. I could have put two here. But anyway, g.length is, we're going through, well, actually, later on there might be more, yeah. This one has more, so, but when we split it, there's only two. So yeah, two is okay. So, so it was right here. This is going to be 2. So we're going to split on space. So that means we're going to take each one of those spaces. Remember, this is split once. Now we're going to split it again on space. So now we have a number, and what we do is we just make it into a position. So we parse each one of those numbers into those strings into a number, and we put it into the positions, right, into the array. Okay, once that's done, we're able to put these set of positions into our groups. I didn't set up an index. I need to set up an index so I can keep track of the position. So index, and then once we put this whole group in there, we increase the index. So this is quite this is quite long, but you know, you have to do it, right? You have to do it. So those were the groups. I think this could be put, it says process groups. And now we need to process the matches, right? Just like before, we need to get all the matches from the XML, right? So what this will do, we say match, and that'll give us, let me put this back, that'll give us this whole thing, right? This whole row of numbers. Just like before, we need to split those because they're on a comma. So this is one match, two match, three match, so we split them. And okay, now we're going to put them into an array of matches, right? So I think I'm missing, yeah. All right, so let's go through that. So we do a loop, and we go through all the matches, right? Since we split them up, right? We're going to have a few of them to process. So what we do is we're going to split each one into 3 parts. So we take each one of these and split on a space, and the space will give us 3 pieces, right? The first, let's see, where am I? The first is the position, right? Like I said, so we're going to parse V1 into the position. We're going to parse V2 into the value, and this is what we said over here. This is the position, and these are strings, and this is the value. Actually, V0 is going to be the type. So v0 is the last, and that is the type, but we have to convert it into an enumerated, and that's why we have this convert function, right? So this convert function will take that letter, right here, and convert it into enumerated type. And then we can make our match. Or we can use the constructor to make. And just like before, well, actually now we have both pieces that we need, all three pieces, excuse me. We have the sides, we have the groups, we have the matches. So this is the parsing part of this program. See, Control D, I think it might be okay. Let's take a look. I think I need one here, curly brace. Okay, so this is the parsing of the file into a level, list of levels, right? And so now we have, where is it? Now we have this, and now as we play the game, when they choose a level, we have all the data we need to generate the components in that level.